Thanks, David. And being a Queensland-focused, Queensland-based company, I'd like to reiterate Ian's comments that Queensland is a fantastic place to do business. We're chasing big system gold and copper targets at the moment, and I'll take you through that now. Next slide. Standard disclaimer. Just a quick overview, trading at around 1.8 cents for a market cap of around that $25 to $28 million mark. Had 4 million cash in bank. As of Thursday last week, shareholders approved another 600,000 as part of a placement that was just completed. So 4.6-ish, less a little bit of drilling that's been going on. Directors have invested a significant portion. And I guess we welcome to the register at that last raise, 1832 Asset Management out of North America, and Lion Selection have jumped on board for a bigger portion as well. Next slide, please. We're Queensland-based, Queensland-focused, chasing, and we do have a significant resource base as it stands. We've got a highly active team that can be on the ground at our flagship project at Ravenswood Consolidated within an hour and a half from our main office. Next slide, please. The board is comprised of 4 board members and myself. I'm a geo. We've got experience across the resources sector from project acquisition, exploration, development and operations. And we've got a more than adequate team to really see this fast track into the future. Next slide. Ravenswood Consolidated. So it is an hour and a half out the road from Townsville. We're based in Townsville. It's beautiful looking outside at the moment. Blue skies this time of year is perfect up here. Townsville's a great place to do business for a minerals explorer. We've got 3 laboratories in town, a concentrate export port, zinc copper refineries in town, a rail line that links directly out to Mount Isa that passes through the project area. The government have also invested significantly in the copper string power corridor, which will run through the project. And John touched on water being critical for copper processing. We've got the Burdekin Dam that sits just off the south edge of the project area. Water won't be an issue. Next slide, please. The Charters Towers Ravenswood district is prolific, and it's well known for its gold endowment. So mines like Charters Towers, Mount Lation, Ravenswood currently is Queensland's largest gold mine, and Pajingo to the south of our leaseholding, 4 million ounces. It did also host the Thalanga lead zinc copper mine and the Highway Reward copper gold mine. So these VMS systems that are base metal and gold rich, about 14 million tonnes worth of base metal material out of the Mount Windsor volcanics, and we control about 85% of the Mount Windsor volcanic belt. We also have a copper moly porphyry corridor that sits in the northeast of the land holding with advanced targets at T12, where we've put down an exploration target in the top 100 metres. So really high-grade moly to go with that copper system. We'll move forward. We've got a solid resource base, so 5.5 million tonne at 12% recoverable zinc equivalent. And zinc equivalent's a horrible way to record things, but the focus of the Liontown drilling in the past has been on the zinc, lead zinc part of the system. We do have a gold and copper-rich footwall zone to mineralisation, and these VMS resources in their own right already contain a significant amount of gold and copper. 190,000 ounces of contained gold and 53,000 contained tonnes of copper metal. Importantly, 63% of the Liontown resource is now in indicated status, which gives us a great platform to build off, and we know where we're heading next. Next slide. We picked up the Greater Liontown component of the Ravenswood Consolidated project 12 months ago, 12 months ago, a week ago. And when we picked up the project, it came with 6,000 metres of diamond core, And in that 6,000 metres of diamond, we saw some spectacular gold and copper intersections. So it was 6,000 metres that hadn't been released to market. We've been through and processed that. We also generated a new geology model. So next, please. Generated a new geology model whereby we mapped out, in this case, the footwall loads, and we're looking at metal zonation. It's telling us about thermal gradients and where the hottest parts of the system are. We believe that's where the fluids have entered the system, and we can see the red is gold and the green is copper. We do have these nice copper and gold rich parts of the system. Next, please. We've completed 3 RC programs. Results from the first two RC programs have intersected extremely high-grade gold. We have seen some nice copper kicking in a few of those holes too, and we're currently awaiting assay results from the third RC program that's been completed. And we've got a diamond rig that's still turning, and results for the first 3 holes are at the lab as well. And we're waiting those results. Next. We've completed a resource upgrade since we've had this ground. Importantly, there's a gap zone between the Liontown and Liontown East resources, with a handful of drill holes between, each of which contain economic intercepts. And we're sure that we'll be able to continue to grow that resource through that gap zone. And I guess the final point on this is that we've completed the first regional gold-focused exploration at Coronation, where we've mapped out barite veins, high rock chip gold contents in those barite veins. They were indicative. Gold in barite system was indicative of the Highway Reward mine site, which is about 2.5 kilometres to the south. So it has been a busy first 12 months. If we step forward, we'll go into how these systems form, and I'll just get you to play that video. Perfect. So these VMS systems are typically laid out on an ancient seafloor, Liontown in particular. Metalliferous sediment essentially is spewed out onto the seafloor. And we do see a thermal gradient. So a plumbing system beneath these VMS vents. Ultimately, what we're looking at is the hotter the fluid is, the more likely we are to precipitate out copper and gold. And by the time it cools to the point that it's precipitating out on the seafloor, we're starting to see metals like zinc, lead, and silver drop out on the seafloor. Our target, and the target in this system, is that footwall stratigraphy and that feeder stock. Next slide, please. Once this was laid out on the seafloor, we've tipped the whole system on its end, almost 90 degrees. So what we see is the deepest parts of the system are to the right of this image, to the north. So we see the sediment in blue, the volcanic basement in green, and we see the red shape is the seafloor lead zinc sulfide mineralisation. And the lesser drilled footwall is the gold copper rich part of the system. That's our target zone, as I just mentioned, not the initial target zone. The Carrington lode was first mined between 1905 and 1911, produced 28,000 ounces of gold at 22 grams a tonne. And then lead zinc was discovered in that predictable stratigraphic location and became the focus for exploration for the next 70 years. Next slide, please. We've had these stunning results in a nice tight little zone at the moment. It's currently 260 metres by 140 metres across. And we do grade from a gold-rich panel, so the red colour there, into a copper-dominant panel. It's not to say we don't see copper in the gold-rich zone, or we don't see gold in the copper-rich zone, but we do see a distinct change in mineralogy as we move. Next slide. That little snapshot, 260 by 140, is part of a system that is a mile long now. So this goes from the western end of the Carrington lode all the way out to the east at Liontown East, where 1.5 million tonnes of resource sits on the seafloor contact, and the footwall zone behind is really poorly drilled out. What we do see is that grade from booming gold numbers, the 20s at 18 and those sort of numbers, down into a copper-rich zone, which is typically where we've got the best parts, around that 5 metres at 5% copper. Gives us a fantastic target to chase at depth. We'll move on. We do have the highway reward style mineralisation. That is also going to be a really core focus for us moving forward throughout 2024. Highway reward was mined between 1987 and 2003, produced about 4 million tonnes at 5.5% copper and just over a gram gold. Some of the intersections, discovery intersections into highway reward are pretty eye-watering. So 48 at almost 12% copper and a gram and a half gold makes it a really attractive target in anyone's book. These are slightly different VMS systems. They're essentially toothpaste style sulfide just wrapping up and around these rigid rhyolite bodies. Important to realise that conviction, part of the highway system, was discovered using IP. Next slide, please. We've just completed IP around the edge of the highway mining lease on a couple of prospects, Truncheon and Highway East. Now, the image on the left here is the gravity image. Gravity shows us about dense rock. You don't get much more dense rock than massive sulfide. So we see highway is coincident with a gravity high. The next largest responses in gravity sit at Truncheon and Highway East, and we've completed that IP survey. Now, the IP survey, ASX released out a couple of weeks back with those initial findings, but we've generated several targets out of this from the IP, many of which are coincident with these gravity anomalies. So we've got 3 advanced targets now, Truncheon, Highway East, and just to the north, Coronation, that we'll be doing further work on over 2024. And we think they're a great target style and can only hope that we get some of those highway style intersections. Next slide. So just to wrap up, we've got drilling ongoing, 17 out of the 18 holes drilled. The 18th hole is nearing target zone and progressing well. Those are at the lab. We expect results in coming weeks. We'll be drill testing those highway reward analog targets, Coronation, Truncheon, Highway East through 2024. We'll also be testing a series of large-scale gold-only targets. We're using and maybe abusing some of these geophysical techniques, well-known techniques, including EM, as discussed earlier, and we'll have a resource update out later in the year. That's about all from Sunshine. I'll leave you with those 4 points. So just chasing those big-scale targets, North Queensland-based technical team close to the project, really active, big news flow, and we look forward to a booming 2024. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Damien. Great presentation. A couple of really good questions here. Plenty of ground. How do you plan tackling it? How do you send the teams in the right directions at the right time?
Yeah, so it is definitely a dual focus. I guess when we picked up these projects, we've inherited a lot of really significant geochem and geophysical data. But yeah, it will be a split between that resource growth and that really exciting VMS system at Liontown that we're starting to understand, but also stepping further afield. And we think we can really shift the dial by some of these new targets and progressing that.
And what about funding? A big work program such as this requires a few dollars. What's funding look like, and how confident are you to fund the work that's required?
We have just completed the raise, so 4 million, 4.6 million in the bank, 4 million locked away at the last raise. We are looking to divest a couple of these other projects that are non-core now, and we see that adding to the till. We think we're in a great place to maintain the rage and be highly active on ground.
You did touch on, I think it was at Liontown, that the resource was listed in zinc equivalent. What does that mean in gold or copper terms?
Yeah, zinc is dominant metal, 330 odd thousand contained metal tons. Having said that, the footwall loads of of Liontown are comprised of about 51, or gold comprised about 51% of the metal value. So we are looking to dual report later this year. If we were to report in a gold equivalent, we've essentially got, it's around the 850,000 ounce mark at just under 5 grams recoverable, and further network, and I guess further resource drilling into that footwall to really bump up that number. But it's a nice significant resource base in anyone's book, and we think we're really pulling it apart and doing a nice job of it so far.
A question here, assumed from a shareholder: are you planning to consolidate the shares at any point? Is that something that's being considered by the board, or you just want to see what the workflow generates and how that appreciates the share price over the coming months and into the next year?
Yeah, no, it is a good question, and it's something that we do consider and review on a regular basis. What I would say is the liquidity's been fantastic. The last 6 months, we've been a very liquid company, maintaining a solid share price, and at this point, we don't see the need to alter that too far. But yeah, we keep those things on the table at all times as well. So.
Thanks, Damien. A great portfolio of assets, as you say, maintaining the rage, which will keep the news flow going, which shareholders love to see. We'll follow with interest. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.